Needs more Mila Kunis. All right, I'll just apologize ahead of time. I'm not able to get an Untitled review show for you. It's the same reason it always is. The fatigue hit me yesterday and knocked me out for like half the day. And even then, like, I got a ticket for a pretty early showing, and maybe I could get in time, but with like the Disney Decembers and stuff like that, I'm still catching up on those. I just have to do a vlog review, so I apologize for that. This is, of course, going to be rambly, as I always am, but hopefully I can keep it a little concise and to the point. With that said, before I talk about this movie, I should definitely talk about my awareness of Wicked. Have I seen the musical? Do I know much about it? Have I read the book or anything like that? No, I haven't read the book. I have seen the musical. I didn't see the original cast recording, but I did, or the original cast performance, I should say, but I did buy the original cast recording when it came out, even before I saw the musical, because I knew the basics of the story, and I said, okay, this just has to be a musical I would like, I think, and this is before I think you could download songs and everything, like, it was just on CD, or at least that's how I got my music then. And I listened to the soundtrack, and I liked it. I didn't love it. But then when I went to see the stage show, obviously I appreciate it a lot more. I had a good time with it, but it's definitely not something I'm gonna say is like one of my favorite musicals or anything. There's maybe 3 songs I find hummable that I, listen to every once in a while and I really enjoy. And the rest are good. It's a good musical as well, but it's a great production. If you can actually go and see it on stage, it's very, very impressive, and has a lot of great life and energy and color, usually great singing and everything, good music, but it's not one that, I, as someone who enjoys musicals, but I wouldn't call myself like a musical nut anyway, definitely not Broadway theater, musical theater, anything like that. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I saw it on stage. I was really happy I saw it, but it's not something I listen to over and over. But whenever I see something on stage, whether it be a stage musical or an opera or something like that, because I think I have a movie mindset, I'm always thinking what this would be like as a movie. So this is a very cinematic story, so I think to myself, man, what they could do with this. So I was paying attention to when they were announcing like who was going to direct it, who was going to star in it, and the more and more I heard, the more I said, okay, yeah, this can work. This sounds pretty good. And when I saw the trailer for it, I thought it was looking pretty good. So I went in with pretty decent high expectations. I didn't think I was going to adore it or anything, but I was hoping to enjoy it. And that's exactly what I got. I got a good movie. This is a solid rendition of this film. You can, of this musical, I should say. You can very easily see why it's split up into 2 parts and why it's as long as it is. I think it's like 2.5 hours, something like that. And for the most part, I did not feel the length of it. There's one point where they like have a scene with like a lion cub, and that was the only moment where I'm like, yeah, okay, how long is this again? But then it gets back into what makes the story so interesting, and they know when to throw in a song, they know when to slow down, they know when to speed up. They have a real good knack for figuring out what you want to see when. And that's very refreshing to see, because a lot of times when you had to adapt a Broadway show, a Broadway musical into a film, you have to lose a lot, sadly, and they're very different audiences. So again, this is as cinematic as the story is, and of course a lot of the visuals could be, and even the characters. It's still a different audience you're trying to hit, and they have different ways of communicating. They have different ways of getting across information. So I think the fact that they were allowed to really, really take their time in certain moments, nothing felt too rushed, and it was really nice to see. And I think if they did cut it down to, I don't know, hour and a half or 2 hours or something like that, funny enough, I think you would feel the length, because then you would be cutting out scenes where just people have, silent moments, or just moments where they give a little stare, or moments where they have to really take something in. And a lot of times you can't do that in a musical that's an adaptation from a Broadway show without cutting out a lot, without cutting out some songs. So I do think it was a smart choice to do that. I'm trying to think if there's anything in here. There's a lot of stuff to praise. So I'll say this, top of my head, there's nothing I can really think of that's bad, per se. maybe the comic relief. The Glinda's two best friends, the comic relief there, I think maybe got one laugh out of me and that's it. And they're definitely not annoying. They're not in the movie much, but especially the one dude, he's from SNL. He's kind of doing his shtick that he does from SNL. And a little short sketch, that's fine for a 2.5 hour movie. It's a little bit, but they don't quite overstay their welcome. That's the only thing I can point to. I was just like, yeah, that wasn't great, but even that wasn't awful. A lot of the things in this look really great. All the characters seem, on point for not only where the story is going, but how it was set up in the original musical. Everybody has a lot of charm and charisma. The world looks good. This is a movie where as soon as it started, because the earliest show I could get was on a regular screening, regular size screen, and as soon as it started with its opening shot, I said, I should have seen this on IMAX. If you have a choice, go see it on IMAX, because I can just already tell from these shots that is the way it's meant to be seen. So I don't know if I'll go back and see it in IMAX, because I like this movie. I didn't love it, but I think there's going to be a lot of people who are either, I think, people who are fans of the original musical and people who are just fans of musicals in general are really going to like this movie. I think they're going to get into it. The screening I went to didn't even have that many people. Like I said, it was a very early screening. It was like 2 p.m., something like that. I mean, people are still at work, at school, all that stuff. And even by the end, people still applauded. They really got into it for, the small amount of people that there are. That's, I know it sounds strange, but that's kind of what a good job it does. That gets you amped up with the music and everything. Again, this is a part 1, so there's a big to be continued at the end. It's done at, pretty much the right point where you should do it to be continued with this story. I mean, it's where, spoiler, it's where the intermission is. What a shock. But it's still very well put together. The musical numbers are not only very well choreographed, but I'm really impressed with how much these actors come together, and they still, not only do they just dance so naturally, and these dance moves, sometimes it can be a little silly. I mean, it's an Oz movie, but they're so precise. I'm really impressed with when they do a movie musical now, how good and how creative the dance sequences are, and just how, I mean, it almost looks like kung fu. It's just so sharp in these dances. It reminded me of the remake of West Side Story that I surprisingly liked. I didn't think I was going to like. And again, the dancing was just, like next level there. And, we see all these shows and, definitely online, everything where people are showing off these great dance moves. And I feel like, musicals are really coming back more and more, and they're really seeing what they can do with stuff that's really there. Again, I like movies are really trying to work more and more with stuff that's really there. Clearly, there's a lot of effects in this movie, a lot of CG. Some of it looks good, some of it's pretty fake, but again, in something like this, I don't need it to look real. I need it to look good, and most of it looks good. Some of the animals do not look that hot. I was seeing, I was talking about the lion cub, and it was so distractingly fake. I was saying to myself, why don't they just get a real lion cub? Does this thing really have to act that much? But then there's other scenes, like I remember when I saw the musical, there's a goat teacher. I remember thinking to myself, how are you going to do that in a movie? And they do it, and they do it pretty well. Again, it doesn't look like he's always there, but I wasn't snickering whenever he was on screen, and I really thought I would. I'm like, okay, well, this is either going to be like a half goat, half person, or they're going to CG a goat. Either way, I think I'm going to laugh quite a bit, and I didn't. I actually did follow, the dramatic story of this goat that has glasses and talks, which sounds very silly, but the movie did a very good job sucking into that. Some of the performers in this, the casting in this is very, very well done. Some of these people I don't know. The guy who plays Fierro, especially, I didn't know who this guy is, and as soon as he shows up, he's on this horse, and he does this weird move where he sort of goes down, his legs fly up in the air. He does almost like, I don't know, like a frog legs or something like that, off the horse. And I just said, okay, well, that's like some CG thing that they did. He didn't really do that. But then when you see him dance later in the movie, I'm like, maybe he did do that, because this guy's a talent. He can do it all. He's got the chemistry, he's got the charisma, he's got the dancing, he's got the great voice. Like, this guy's going to be a big deal. I should look him up the more I think about it. I got the IMDb here. Jonathan Bailey, okay. I don't think that's the announcer. I'm pretty sure. But, yeah, no, and maybe he's been something else, I'm not sure, but very, very good in this. Michelle Yeoh also, it's so funny because I grew up with her in like kung fu movies, martial arts movies. I should definitely say martial arts, that's more appropriate. But I keep forgetting she's a really good actress. Like, she can act, but I keep forgetting, oh yeah, like I think she won an Oscar, didn't she? And, you think of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and she shows up in this, and I'm just like, man, she's really good in this. So here's where it gets interesting. The people that, or the person I should say, that I was originally a little concerned about, I don't know much about this person, but Ariana Grande, I didn't know about. I heard the casting, and I said, well, okay, I know she can sing, but I wasn't sure about the performance, because, the character is kind of a cartoony character, and I didn't know this, she was really known for that. And then when I saw the trailer, I kind of said, all right, well, this is a little bit of an in-between of going a little over the top, but not to a cartoony standpoint. I didn't know if that was going to work, but she finds a perfect balance in this. Not everybody has great voices in this, I shouldn't say that, but the people that don't are good actors, so they can work with it. And but she finds the right balance of being very funny, but also very sympathetic. The transition that all these characters go through is very natural, very easy to follow. The thing that it's going to be hard to say because people are going to think I'm like, it's a real knock against the movie, and it's not. But there's two actors in this that are good, and that sounds like that's a compliment. It is a compliment, but everybody else is great. And they're the two actors I thought, oh, well, that's in the bag. Boom, they're going to be the ones everybody's going to be talking about. One is, I can never say her last name, is Cynthia Erivo, I'm not sure how to say her last name, I'm so sorry. And Jeff Goldblum. Those were the two where I'm just like, well, boom, that's it. This is going to be like they're going to be flawless. And when I saw them in this movie, I said, okay, they're good. They're doing a good job. But with everyone else, where I was seeing these characters, I was seeing them in these scenes, and I was, really on board with their journey and everything. With them, I always saw a performance. It's a good performance, but that's always what I was aware of. And I think with Cynthia, there's an idea that she's kind of looking for her identity, so you could argue that's part of it. Well, she doesn't have it all figured out yet because that's her character. She doesn't have it all figured out. She's trying to find herself and everything. But I really felt like there's some moments where I should be, like my heart's getting ripped out on my chest and everything. And there are some looks she gives that are very good, and there's some moments she has that are very, very powerful. But then there's other moments where I'm watching it, especially like the beginning of Defying Gravity, the big song at the end. I'm saying I should really, really be invested in this. And I was more invested in Grande's reaction to her and everything that was going on. And even sometimes that was a little off to her. There's a scene where they're going up the stairs and she just has this weird blank expression just for a second. That you could just blame the editing for that. But for the most part, Grande's really great in this. And with Goldblum, again, you're going to see Jeff Goldblum to some extent. That's what he does, but if you watch something like Chaos, where he is just magnificent in it, and the people who made that knew how to use their Goldblum, 5 stars on their Goldblum usage. I was hoping to see a little bit more of that here. Not that they're the same character. I like they play him off a little bit more like an evil Walt Disney. I think that's very clever. But there was always this awareness that, okay, I'm watching Jeff Goldblum act, and I feel like when I saw Chaos, I didn't see that. It's clearly Goldblum, but he is this terrifying madman, this powerful, crazy guy. And again, I wasn't expecting to see exactly that, but I saw more Goldblum in this than I did the Wizard, if that makes sense. And the two other minor critiques, these are very, very minor, because I like the way this world looks, but I thought this was a Warner Brothers movie because it looks like Lord of the Rings meets Harry Potter. And to some extent, that's to be expected. Those movies, when they returned to films, clearly took a lot from Wizard of Oz. I mean, clearly, obviously. Those soldiers, in Two Towers that are marching. I remember when I first saw them, I wanted to go, oh, we, oh. Like, there's so much that's taken from Wizard of Oz. I mean, everybody steals to some extent from Wizard of Oz. But the designs in this, and most of all, the colors seem very reminiscent of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. And that was a touch distracting to me because everything looked like it had a little bit of a white sheen over it. And that's not what Oz should be. Oz should be just like bursting with color. I mean, just like punching you in the face with it. It should look like my wall, man. It should look like, the walls in my house. I mean, it should just be reaching out, punching you in the face. But then there's one scene where the wizard is showing, was it the Oz of Tomorrow he talks about? And it's this little model that he made. And those colors were very, very, very bright, very sharp to look at. I mean, just really leaped out at you. And I'm thinking, okay, well, time is supposed to pass in between these movies, so maybe that's the idea. Maybe we're going to see that Oz come later because it's in development. So this is what it's like, a little earlier on. But because of that, you see more the designs of this school and the villages and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that looks like the Shire. Oh, that looks like Rivendell. Oh, that looks like Hogwarts. They all have that similar feel, and I feel like the color could have really changed that, could have really transformed into something else. And it's not all to say there aren't color. There isn't a fair amount of color in here. There is, but like I said, it's just a hint muted. There's like that white sheen over the whole thing, and I feel like that was a touch distracting. There are some moments where it does get really vibrant when Glinda singing Popular, or the end of Popular, I should say. Everything goes almost neon green. I was almost like that, but at least it was a color that really popped. So again, that's a real nitpick. That's a real, that's not something I think is going to ruin anything for most people watching. For the most part, I feel like this movie really came through with what the musical is and why people really connect with it. Like I said, the only things that I think it took me out of it a touch, I mean, just the tiniest bit, is Goldblum and Cynthia being good. They are good. It's just that everyone else is great. And then, like I said, the color thing. And then one other thing that I don't know if everyone else is going to see with this or not, because I was wrapping my brain around it while I was listening to everybody singing, particularly the two leads, because they're good singers. They are very good singers. And I'm listening to them, and they sound good. The singing is good. But once in a while, something sounded a little off. And at first I thought, well, they're just not putting enough breath behind it. Some of these notes, I feel like they should be projecting a little bit more. And then other times I see, no, they were fine. Sometimes I was wondering if it was the audio mixing, like maybe they turned the music up a little bit or the voices down or something. And I thought maybe it's the auto tuning. But it still sounded good. There's just something every once in a while, maybe like 2 or 3 times in every single song, something would sound a hint off, and then we get the original actresses who were in the original version, Adele Dazeem. I did the Travolta thing. I was gonna make the joke. I was gonna say Idina Menzel. At least I didn't say Adele Dazeem, but I was thinking about so much. I said maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe that's why Travolta made that mistake. Anyway, people are going back years later and be like, "What was that about?" And then, and again, I gotta look up her name. I'm sorry. I know I'm off. It shows I'm not a musical theater guy. Kristen Chenoweth. So they make a slight cameo in here, and they sing, and they're very funny. Actually, I thought it was a pretty well handled cameo. And, but they come out, they start singing, and they are just, oh man, for the little bit that they have, they're just so amazing. I mean, just these amazing voices. And again, they act great too. I said, I think that's it. So these two leads, mostly sing. They definitely act, but their main thing is singing now. And they're both good actresses. They do a good job. I don't think they combine them as much as the original actresses. So I think they have a better balance of knowing how to project, how to make it sound really nice, on key and everything, but also give a good performance, which is much trickier than people think. Everyone always thinks, oh yeah, you just talk sometimes, or you whisper, and then you go high, and then you go low, and you project, like, you give a performance kind of thing. But in order to make the voice always sound 100%, and to give a convincing performance, it is really tricky. And I think that's what was distracting for me, because I have heard the soundtrack, a couple times. I've definitely listened to certain songs several times. And again, I'm hearing these amazing talents that have just had years and years of combining great singing and great acting together. And now you have these two actresses, also very good, and they're good at acting, and they're good at singing, but I don't think they've had the same amount of time combining those two together. So because of that, in the songs, again, it might just be me, but I feel like with every song, there's always about 2 or 3 moments where I kind of go, oh, that was off a little bit. I wasn't sure why, or I felt a little weak just for a moment. There's like these little slight moments, which on stage you kind of expect because it's live that's going to happen. But on something where everything, it's a recording, it's a movie, everything's perfected and stuff like that, I was shocked to see a few moments like that. But again, that's not at all to say it's bad singing, it's bad acting. It's not at all. It's all really, really good. I think Grande trained under, the actress playing the same role, I believe. I heard that somewhere. Again, I'm not musical theater, but I heard that somewhere. So clearly very well trained. I mean, both have beautiful voices. I think that's the one thing that was throwing me off a little bit. And even then, I think it's because I have listened to these songs a couple of times. The songs I listen to, I really like. I like No One Mourns the Wicked. I love No Good Deed Goes Unpunished, and I love Defying Gravity. I always like what I call the F It All songs, or F This S, whatever I can say on YouTube now. I love those kind of songs because that's where the conflict comes in. So it probably goes without saying, I really like the ending of this movie. It was so cool seeing like this imagery that I always thought, man, if this ever did become a film, what would it look like? And this is exactly what I thought it would look like. And then it's very likely I'm gonna like the second part more. The second part has a lot more conflict. There's a lot more things that go wrong. There's a lot more darker moments, even though there are dark moments in this, certainly. And they do balance out. There's a sense that it has that fun, goofy humor to it, but it also can get really, really menacing and really, like I said, just dark and disturbing when you really think about what they're doing. Again, it's definitely there. There's going to be a lot more of it in the second film, and that's definitely what I'm looking forward to. So I had a really good time with it. I didn't adore it, but I feel like I said before, people who enjoy the musical, or just enjoy musicals in general, if you've never seen the stage show or heard the soundtrack, you're gonna like it. It's very well done. It's very competently done. It takes a lot of things that would be very tricky to translate onto the big screen. It does it very, very well, and I think a large part of that is because they decided to split into 2 parts and to make this film, a pretty long movie. And like I said, for the most part, I did not feel the running time of it. So yeah, this is a pretty well put together production. Like I said, even the critiques I had is more, hey, that's good, darn it, and everything else is great. It's one of those things where it's like, man, that's a pretty nice critique to give something. So yeah, I really had a good time with it. What did you all think? Did you get into this movie? Did you think it did the original musical good service? Or do you think it missed the whole idea about it? Do you think it can't top the original? Do you think it improved on the original? Do you think maybe it's even better than the stage show? I love to know your thoughts on it. I definitely had a good time with it. I don't know if I'd see it again, because like I said, when I first sat down the opening, I'm like, I may have to watch this again on IMAX. And then when I got through the whole thing, I'm like, good, that was a good movie. I think I'm done. Like I said, because this isn't the musical for me, something like, I don't know, Prince of Egypt or something like that. That's a movie. A Hunchback, that's another one I could see a million times on the big screen and watch on IMAX. This one is a really good time. I think I'm going to be the outlier on that. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to see this movie several times and are going to be really excited to watch the next one. Nobody sung in my screening either, by the way. I see they have to post signs saying, for the respect of all the other audience members who haven't seen this film a bajillion times, please don't sing it, or seen the Broadway show a bajillion times or heard the soundtrack over and over. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Hopefully next week I should have an entire review show for Moana 2. Not knock on wood, you know. The fatigue doesn't hit me again. But yeah, thank you all so much. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Take care.